All right.
Tamar, can I get you a glass of water before you
Yes,
start?
that would be great. All right. So, firstly, just thank you so much to Rivka, my Shachin Tov, for hosting this pop-up shiur. And it's so special to see faces that I know from different places. I think Shoshana's in this year's cohort, so that's very special.
I love
Yes, and then we're in the middle of a 3-part series, which I took a break this week because my parents were visiting. And then my husband said, you have to hear this shiur by R Moshe. So I listened to it, and I heard all these things in it, and I thought, for Lag BaOmer, I wanted to give it over. So yeah, we're in the middle of that Leshem series, and that's like a really biggie. So this is like just something a little, I don't want to say lighter, but the Leshem series is 2-hour classes, so this will be a shorter class, and really just a merit to learn the Torah of R Moshe Shapira. And I couldn't think of a better place to do it in the peasant's home. And Rav Moshe was very encouraging of women's learning and for them to develop and blossom. He encouraged all of his students to teach women. So many of his students are very active in educating women, which is really revolutionary, considering that Rav Moshe's Torah is so deep. And I think that he was the youngest Talmud of Rav Dessler. So we're grabbing on to Masorah, to tremendous transmission of Torah as it comes through the generations. And Rav Moshe wanted it to reach women. So it's a big zchus and very special to be able to give a shiur over from him as best as I can. And something I wanted to do is I wanted to also weave in some of our own nexus learnings. So I've got this challenge. It's the most wonderful challenge. I couldn't ask for a greater challenge, better challenge. But because we record shiurim, so some women have been learning with me for so many years, and then they come to the school and we really, get involved over there, and we're constructing like a whole worldview. It's like, it almost feels like a chassidus, like we joke, like the nexus or chassidus, I don't know. It's something that feels so comprehensive, and there's so many working parts, and what we're focusing on. I guess a chassidus, it's all Torah is one, but a chassidus, tongue in cheek, is when there's a particular point of entry, particular point of focus. So because we're women, the point of entry is femininity, because we're women. But of course, all Torah is one and connected, and but just how we're finding the Torah, how we're relating to it, how we're applying it, and the more we're growing with it, the more vast it becomes. That's how it is. Like the more you think you're so great, you were masig, you understood something, the more you realize how infinite and vast and how humbling it is. But the more thirsty you become, to learn more and more. So Rav Moshe Shapira says the month of Iyar. So here we are, we're on the 32nd day of the Omer. So we're right at the cutoff between 2 parts of the Omer. We say in Shachris, Tov Yatzar Kavod Lishmo. Tov Yatzar, he created goodness, Kavod Lishmo, honor for his name. So there's 2 parts of the Omer. The first part is called Kavod. Kavod is honor. The students of Rabbi Akiva perished, lo nahagu kavod se bezet. They didn't give sufficient honor one to the other. kavod in numerical value, gematria, or the remes, is 32. So for 32 days, they died. Yes, there's different customs, which 32 days of mourning we observe. We've actually just changed over to the Minhag Eretz Yisrael, from what I understand, of the first half. So in South Africa, according to my husband's, his family was part of Rav Aaron Pfeiffer's community, and they observed up until Rosh Chodesh. The second half started on Rosh Chodesh, felt so much longer. so I don't know. With me and music, we're really close. So it's a hard one. But there's this avelus, there's this mourning, which 32 days. 32. What else do you know about the number 32? Lev. So Lev is Lamed Beis, 32. So it says in Sefer HaYetzirah that there's Lamed Bet Netivot Chachma, 32 channels of wisdom. You actually have 32 teeth. Maybe that's why they call those back ones the wisdom teeth. So the number 32 is the same gematria as heart, but it has very strong, as the Sefer Yetzirah explains to us very beautifully, that often the heart is something that we associate with femininity, like emotionality, and I don't know. I'm at the stage in my life where I could barely watch a play or read a children's book without crying. I don't know what it is. Is it hormones? Is it kids?
Eretz Yisrael.
It was in South Africa too. It's that right? The Gemara says women cry easy. Our tears are. It's a blessing. They're closer to the surface. It would do men good to cry sometimes. So the lave, the heart, it says bina liba. It says in Pesach Eliyahu, bina liba. I knew we had to have 5. We had to have 5, Racheli. 6.
She's starting out.
So we were just talking about lave and heart and woman, and bina liba. We know that women have bina yasera, right? So the sphira, as in Nexus we like to talk about spherotes. It's okay because it's the Omer, and everyone's thinking about sphirot. We're in the week of Hod, right? 7 weeks according to the 7 sphirot, midot, lower sphirot, attributes, emotional attributes. But anyway, one of the higher attributes is bina. It's one of the intellectual ones. It's called the mochin. So there's a masculine and feminine one. So bina is feminine and chachma is masculine. So there's 32 pathways to chachma. And yet, it's interesting how it's leiv, which is heart, is connected to chachma. So the Sefer Yetzirah teaches us that you understand with wisdom and you're wise with understanding. In other words, you can't separate chachma and bina. The masculine and feminine faculties of the mind have to work together, just like shalom bayis, a beautiful marriage. The male and female work together in unity. Anyway, that was all a tangent. So 32 is the first part of the Omer. It's called kavod. And it's very mysterious how those 24,000 students died. It's like beyond belief. We're actually in the school, in the Rise 2, we've been learning about very mysterious connections between Rabbi Akiva was actually a Gilgal, surprisingly enough, of Zimri, which is like, because Zimri appears like like a negative character, but there were 24,000 men of the tribe of Shimon who perished in that Maisa Zimri, and they were all reincarnated as students of Rabbi Akiva. I mean, crazy things we're learning. But anyway, putting that aside, if you want to go that deep, you need to sort of join us. Yeah. So the fact that they perished and we're mourning, what are we mourning in those 32 days? And what is switching over now that it's going to be Lag BaOmer? What's the joy of Lag BaOmer? Why is there this, like this? It's the tradition of the mystical tradition, the transmission of the mystical tradition. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. There's this big celebration. Everyone's lighting bonfires and dancing and happy, and they stop mourning. And it enters into the second set of the Omer, which is 17 days from Lag BaOmer until Shavuos, which is the numerical value, Remez, the gematria of Tov, which is good. So basically, Tov Yatzar Kavod Lishmo, you have two halves of the Omer, the half of Kavod and the half of Tov. I'll tell you a personal story. Personal story is that Baruch Hashem, we have a son who, amazing hashgacha pratis, the day that he was born, my husband was doing daf yomi, he was teaching daf yomi, and the pasuk was that using the words tove lev. So he told me this, and I said we have to call him this name. So his name is Tuvia Lev. That's his name. It turns out that Tuvia is 32 and Lev is 32. Tuvia Lev is actually 32. So what is the difference between the first half and the second half? So that's basically what we want to understand, and how could we connect to who those students of Rabbi Akiva were. Lisa. Tov Yatzar Kavod Lishmo. Elisa, we're trying to understand the two parts of the Sphira, this part of Kavod and the part of Tov. And just so beautiful that we can speak about this on the cusp of Lag BaOmer.
Why do you say that, by the way?
It's a piyut in the Birchos Shema liturgy, Shacharis liturgy. Okay. So I'm going to start to blitz fast. Is that okay?
We'll go on this.
Okay. So let's talk about this month of Iyar. Okay, the month of Iyar. Iyar, anybody know where the name Iyar comes from?
Aleph, it's Hashem, the healer.
Ani Hashem Rofecha. It's one of the Ramazim. I am Hashem, your healer. Beautiful. We're going to take a different entry into the month of Iyar. In the Torah, so Iyar is a Babylonian name, but the Torah gives the month of Iyar a name. And according to the Torah, it's called the month of Ziv. It's called the month of Ziv. You can look on your source sheets. It's from Malachim Aleph, Perek Vav, Pasuk Aleph. It's quoted in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. It's called Chodesh Ziv. Beyerach shenoldu bo zivatanei olam. The month that the luminaries of the world were born. Apparently, the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, were born in the month of Iyar. And there, it says they were born, but then the Medrash Rabbah, source 2, says, V'yomer Elokim yehi or ze Avraham. When Hashem says, let there be light, that refers to Avraham, who's called light, and it brings a pasuk and a remez and a medrash. So the word Iyar is called Ziv, which means light, but the word Iyar comes from the word or, I never knew this, which means light. It's the month of light. Now this is very interesting because it's actually more the month of darkness. Nisan, Hashem reveals himself. So revelation is illumination, it's light. And Sivan is the month of the giving of the Torah. Hashem revealed himself, light. But Iyar is the month linking the light of Nisan and the light of Sivan. But the month of Iyar has no festival in it, has no revelation in it. It's actually it's a period of counting, anticipation. But it itself, why is it called light, the month of light? So happy you're here.
What's Ziv? You said Ziv.
Ziv means light,
Oh, that also
means light
Aramaic?
in Hebrew. Iyar,
Ziv Ashchina, right?
right? Iyar. So Rav Moshe says like the lashon sad means to trap. A tzayad is somebody who traps, or din is judgment. A dayan is a judge. So it's a derivative of the word. But I mean, it's just a remez because all the months are Babylonian names. But I never made that connection before. But so we're going to be talking about light. So now there's this incredible remez that he brings from the Beit Shmuel. So Eliza has been in the school for a few years, and it's not elitist, it's open. You're all invited, but there's this knowing that we share just from the shiurim and Shoshana from this year, and as much as we can share, we share. But the Beit Shmuel says that the remez is that the month of Iyar stands for the most incredible remez. Aleph, how do you spell Iyar? Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Rachel. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Rachel. So you have there the Avos and then Rachel. So in recent years, we've spoken a lot at the school about Leah. Always speaking about the lights of Leah, they're hidden. We've spoken about her so much. And I feel like we haven't given Rachel her due. Like we haven't given Rachel Imenu. You know, people are writing it all the time. It's beautiful. What about Rachel? You know, we speak so much about Leah, and she represents the Alma Deskaskia, the hidden world. Leah in numerical value is 36, which is the amount of hours that the light from creation was in the world before Hashem hid it. Motzei Shabbos was the first time the darkness arrived. There were 36 hours of the Or HaGanus, the hidden light was revealed. Leah is an incredible character to connect to and understand how holy she is, but she's so hidden. But then we haven't spoken about Rachel so much. So everyone's like, well, what about Rachel? She's also amazing. What about Rachel? So this is a shiur about Rachel. So listen to the next remez. So this is incredible. So Rav Moshe says that the pasuk, the first time the word or is mentioned to you in the Torah, Yehi or. Vayomer Elokim Yehi or. Actually, I think it was, we have to open a chumash. Vayehi or. But where does it say Vayar ki asa or Vayar or ki tov? I think that's the first time. Do you have a voracious somewhere in all of these farms? Thank you. We have to get this very clear. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashemayim v'es haaretz va'aretz haisa sohu uvohu v'choshech al pnei sahom v'ruach Elokim merachefes al pnei. What are we up to? Hamayim v'yomer Elokim yehi or. 25. Okay? That's a remez to Chanukah. 25th day of Kislev is light. Vayehi or, and there was light. Vayar Elokim es haor ki tov. So tov is the 33rd word, right? Did I do that right? So the first 32 letters in the Torah corresponds to the first 32 days of the Omer, and then the good starts on Lag BaOmer on the 33rd day. And that's what ushers in the last 17 days of the Omer, Gematria Tov. Gematria Tov. So what does this all mean? So he brings the most incredible, sweetest hint here. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or. Hashem says, let there be light. Why am I creating creation? Not for darkness, not for war, not for pain, not for suffering, not for Yisurim, not for Golos, not for Hester Panim. That's not why Hashem created the world. He created it to reveal himself for light, for Geula, for revelation, for connection. Vayehi Or. And there was light. So he says that Vayehi Or in Gematria, in numerical value, is the Gematria of Rachel. Of Rachel. So Yehi Or, says the Medrash, this is the Avos. They were the ones who first brought down a dugma, a vision, a seed, a haschala, a makor, a source, a starting point. This is right? We say, when will our deeds reach the deeds of our forefathers? They were like, this is what we want. Like there it is, right? That's what we want, right? But then we have to get there. That's the journey, right? That's the purpose of history. That's the purpose of our lives. That there should be Vayehi Or, that there should be a reflection of Hashem's intention that the Avos set out for us. So when we reach the level of the Avos, we've reached the purpose of the world. But how are we going to know what to strive for if Hashem didn't reveal the purpose? So Hashem reveals the Avos, gives us the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the Imahos, so that we know what light is. So we know what good is, so we know what to strive for. But when we've attained it, that's Gematria Rachel. So R Moshe says, is what is the destination? What is the purpose? The whole purpose of creation is something called Beis Yisrael. Beis Yisrael is the house of Israel. The house always refers to the woman. And Rachel Imenu represents Beis Yisrael, Mama Rachel. Now you're going to write in and say, what about Leah? Right? We're always out of balance. Either we're praising Leah or we're praising Rachel.
Why did she raise Sarah?
Right, that's a good question.
Leah was hidden, but raised Sarah.
Right, and Sarah Mivka Rachel and Leah.
It's probably wrong.
Even the luchos that were given on Har Sinai, what did we say, Elisa? We said luchos is the numerical value of Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, Zilpah. So in
the combination of
the full
of all the
Barzel, so Barzel is, anyway, these are all the different Ramazim. But a short answer to your question is that the Avos themselves was a journey too. So like Abraham was the pillar of Chesed, and Yitzchak was the pillar of Gevura, and Yaakov is the pillar of Emes, pillar of Torah. But Avram only had one wife, and then Yitzchak had one wife, but then for some reason Yaakov had four. Well, two, and then the Shvachos was four. So Yaakov, it says, Chotza Mashulash Lopim Hariyana. Take Yaakov, it's the Bechir Sheba Avos. He was the one who encompassed both Avram and Yitzchak within him, and therefore his wives encompass the full spectrum of the Shekhinah. So there's two aspects of the Shekhinah. One aspect is called Leah, one aspect is called Rachel. So that's what we're hinting to. So it's not that Sarah and Rivka are incorporated in Rachel and Leah, because they receive from Sarah and Rivka. They're very beautiful, very complex things, and we have the whole year program is about the imahos. We have a whole semester on Sarah and a whole semester on Rivka, and then a whole semester on Rachel and Leah. Very, very beautiful. So Beis Yisrael, the house of Yisrael, is Rachel. So now when I was listening to this shiur by Rav Moshe, and I had the schos that my husband was listening with me separately, not on the same, I was listening in a taxi, and I put it on speaker. It was an incredible thing. And the taxi driver, it took more than one taxi ride. So the first time there was this frum man, and he was probably overhearing. The second time I was in the taxi, it was a totally secular man. And I didn't even think he was listening. And when I got out, he says, "Who is that Rav?" And I said, "This is Rav Moshe Shapira." And he was like, "Is a barur, is a chazak." He was so just incredible. Anyway, never judge anybody. Could be, but he also understands Hebrew and interesting, yeah. So, what does Rav Moshe mean that Beis Yisrael is summarized by Vayihi Or as Rachel? So, back to the Sefer HaYetzirah. The Sefer HaYetzirah teaches the beauty of the Hebrew letters, and it divides the 22 letters of the Aleph Beis into 3 categories. Mothers, there's 3 mothers, imahot, or imot, I don't remember. 3 mothers, and that's Aleph, Mem, and Shin are considered sort of I don't know if anybody's an artist here, but you need primary colors. These are the primary letters that all the other letters derive from them, whatever that means. Sort of your yellow, blue, and red, right? It was so sweet. My daughter came home from Gan, and she wanted to paint an orange fire for Lag BaOmer, but she only had yellow and red. I said, "Basi, mix them and make orange." She was like, "Really? Magic." So Aleph, Mem, and Shin are the mother letters, and then you have the kfulot, the double letters, and that is Beged Kaperet, which can take a dagesh, and it changes. They appear in a double way. So Beis and Beis, Gimel, it could also take a dagesh. I don't know how to pronounce it as in my accent. And then you're left with the pshutos. The simple letters, is 12 of them, and they match up to each month of the year. So Hey matches up to Nisan, which makes sense because Hey represents the Shechina. And the Shechina was revealed in Yetzias Mitzrayim. And then Vav matches up with Iyar. So the letter of Iyar is Vav, and the whole essence of Vav is to connect. So you're connecting the one light to the other light. You're connecting, Hashem says, Yehi Or, Va Yehi Or. So, and there was light that we managed to connect back to the source and reveal the source light all the way in the projection, in the destination, in the manifestation of the source we've now revealed in the final destination. I'll tell you a funny story. Now, sort of my head's in this Leshem series. But when I was a teenager, I went to spend Pesach with Rabbi Tatz and his family. It was very sweet. The Tatzes sent their daughter Ruthie to spend Pesach with our family in St. Louis one year, and the next year they made a deal. You take our daughter, we'll take your daughter. So this was my turn to spend Pesach in Israel with the Tatzes. And I had been reading his book, Living Inspired. And it really made me live inspired. That was a long time ago. I highly recommend that book. Anyway, so the whole book is about this idea that you go from Pesach to the Omer to Shavuos. It's like first the light is revealed, and then the light rescinds it. The inspiration is removed, and we have to bahadraga, like step by step. We have to like build ourselves, counting the Omer thoroughly every day, every week, right? In order to become a vessel, in order to grow and become worthy of it being revealed to us again on Shavuos, but this time we've earned it. That's basically the whole idea of the book. And anyway, so the front cover of his book was hanging in his house. The picture that he used, does anybody know the book? It's a picture of a stairwell. And it's very dark, but there's a light shining on the first two steps. And then the light, it's all dark. So because I read the book, I said, Rabbi Tatz, how come there's no light at the top of the steps? Mm-hmm. It took me so much courage to muster up to ask him that question. I was like 15. But he didn't understand me, and he thought I was asking, how come there's no light upstairs? So he ran up the steps and he starts turning on the lights. And I'm like, no, I was asking a mystical question. I know I'm young, but I really want to know this. So I think the whole idea is that when you're in the dark phase, you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because if you saw the light, then it wouldn't be dark. I don't know. I think that's the answer. But that vav is that connection point. That vav hamachaber, it's the vav that's a mamshich, the or of Nisan to the or of Sivan, connects it. So what does this have to do with Rachel Imeinu? So now when I was listening to this shiur, and I don't know if we're going to cover all of it, I don't want to keep you for hours. But Rav Moshe, he was such a giant, and he always says, let's try lahavin, let's try to understand something. He says, how could we understand such great secrets? Whatever we can try to attain, but how could we not? Because this is life. This is what we're living in. So to think that we're understanding Kabbalistic secrets, how could we think that, right? It's above us and beyond us, and who are we? Right? And there's such an awe. When you listen to him, there's such an awe. But on the other hand, to not try, what's the alternative? To not try and to have our heads in narishkeit and to not connect to the light of Torah. So he gives he calls it hora'a l'maisa. He gives a very practical application of the shiur that I really want to get to because it's so important. And that basically answers the question, and this is very important for our community, how could we learn secrets of Torah in a way that's truly what Hashem wants, right? And because there's so much like angst about it, whether it's appropriate, what could we really grasp? We're women, like, as you said, Michal, like you listen to a shiur, but if you're busy doing laundry at the same time, it doesn't go in, and people tell me that they listen to the shiur and they actually have to stop what they're doing. And I'm sorry.
But it's going in it on some level.
Right. Right.
The immediate understanding.
Right. I can't give a shiur while I'm doing laundry. I have to stop and really think about it. But anyway.
Question on that?
Yes.
I keep hearing people say that, but it's not a secret anymore. Why are we saying, how are we able to learn such great secrets?
Yeah.
When the secret's out.
Right.
And everyone's teaching it.
Right.
And Moshe lived a while ago.
Right.
His teachers have been teaching for a long time.
Right.
And everywhere you look, everyone's talking about
right.
Because it's the rise
Zohar.
of the feminine coming into the world. And everybody is yearning for it, and that's why.
Right.
Now is the time. We're in that phase.
Right. So it's true. It depends where and how. So it has a lot to do with the Leshem series that I'm in the middle of, because if you reveal something too publicly, it can also get to the wrong people. Let's see what he says. I think that he answers that question. But you're right. But because if you're too cautious, this is something I struggle with daily. Because this is like, I feel like this is my whole mission. But it's so novel. But it depends who you ask. But if you wanted to get to the right place, there's reason for caution. Maybe I'm just so Lithuanian. I don't know. But it's also, I went to speak with the Red Hats last year when I was visiting London. And I was speaking to him, and he said Rav Moshe was radical. So you have to understand history. Like Rav Moshe, what he did is he opened it up. But it was radical, what he did. But now that was already decades ago. So and there's a new generation every year, you know? Mm-hmm. And just last night I was speaking with Rev Mayor Parker. And he said that the world is desperate. The world is desperate. So he gave me good advice. He says, you don't have to like say all your sources. Just give them what they need. I'm sure Rabbi Pessin would agree. Like, you don't have to say this is this source and this sefer and this Kabbalist and whatever, because then people get nervous. Some people get nervous. Just give it to them and just give them the healing remedy. You don't have to tell them. But for me, it's a little hard, Aliza. Like, I like revealing my sources. Maybe I'm too honest, or I like being transparent.
Some people want the source to know that it's
Right.
coming from the Torah source.
Right.
So
And people aren't as afraid of it either as they used to be. Like if you read Zohar and that's where it comes from, I don't think people are as afraid of it anymore.
Right.
Depends. Different communities, different
Right.
response, different approaches.
So let's do the teaching, and then let's see what emerges. But anyway, so Reb Moshe, he doesn't bring sources. This shiur is based on the Maharal. He did bring a source. I didn't have time to go and look at the Maharal inside. But generally, and this is what Rabbi Taz told me, he doesn't bring sources. He says Chacham Amar, or he's basically with Rav Moshe. It's like, take it from me, and we trust Rav Moshe. And so sometimes you don't say a source. It's tricky because it says everybody who says anything b'shem omro mevi geula la'olam, but you have to know when to, when not to. But anyway, so when you're listening to this shiur, so my husband says to me, okay, so what does he actually mean when he teaches and he says we don't have a connection to kavod, we lost it, that's why we mourn it. Kavod we don't have, but tov we have. There's a ma'arechet of kavod, and there's a ma'arechet of tov. There's a system of kavod, of honor, and that was lost. That hasn't come back. The 24,000 students died. It's gone. And we mourn that. But we do have a connection to tov. We do have a connection to good. So what does that mean? So my husband says, so what does it actually mean? So I said, well, I have an idea. And I sort of feel like when you're listening to Rav Moshe, it's so tsanua how he teaches. The fact that he's not revealing the Kabbalistic sources is an act of tznius. It's an act of covering. But he covered in order to reveal. He's concealing in order to reveal because it wasn't necessary to reveal the sources, so he's giving over the teaching. But me in my I don't know, naughtiness, I don't know what to say, holy chutzpah, I'm trying to see, like when someone's wearing, like, they're wearing something and you can't really see. Like they're wearing a rug. They're wearing a thick piece of, I don't know. You can't, what? Right, you can't see them. And like, Ritzonenu Liros Malkenu, like we want to see. We want to learn. We're so like naughty like that. I'm still saying naughty with a South African accent.
Sounds very cute.
I had to like fit in for 18 years in South Africa. What would you say in America?
Naughty.
Naughty. No, but they don't even use that word.
That just sounds like a whole little zero.
Thirsty. Let's say thirsty. We want to see more. So I saw something that I wanted to share, but it's just what I saw. It's just what I saw. And if it resonates, great. So that's the point I want to come to. So first, let me do the teaching. So Rav Moshe gives over these beautiful sources. He says, let's go back to the light. So Hashem created this beautiful light. And he saw that the light was good. What made the light good? What made the light good is that Vayavdel bein ha'or u'bein ha'choshech. He separated the light and the dark. He created night and day. He hid. It says in Bereshis Rabbah, Yud Beis, source 4 in your source sheet, that light that Hashem created, Adam Arishon Amad v'hibit ba misofa olam ad sofo. Adam Arishon could see from one end of the world to the other, meaning this world and the next. He could see the whole range. He could see why things happen. Right? Rivka was at us on Sunday night for a siyum, the yard site of my nephew who was niftar. We can't see the next world. We have no idea why things happen, why tzaddikim suffer. We have no idea. But Adam Arishon could see everything. Kevan shara kadosh baruch hu ma'asedor enosh, ma'asedor mabel, ma'asedor aflaga, shehim kokalim. He saw the world was corrupt. He saw everything that was going to happen, the rishus, the wickedness, the rashayim. Amad v'gnazo mehem. He hid the light. Shenemar vayimna merisham oram. The pasuk in Eov, he held the light back from the wicked ones. Lama ganzo. Right? Why did he hide it? Gnazo l'tzadikim lasidlavo. He hid it for the righteous in the world to come. Shenemar vayar elokim asa or ki tov. Do you know what's going to make this or good? Ein tov ela tzadikim. Tzadikim are good. They deserve the light. What made it good is that he hid it. What makes the light good is that he hid it. So the marechet of tov, the system of good, that we can connect to, that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai started to bring down the most delicious secrets of delicious, healing, transformational Torah, that without it we can't survive. Without it, we think that we need everything that the Welt is offering us, whether it's comfort, whether it's insight, whether it's healing, whether it's wisdom. We don't realize that we're holding the treasure. We don't realize that the Torah has everything we need. So if we don't connect to that tov, to that or that was hidden, the hidden light, the hidden dimension of Torah, really, then really we're lost. Does that mean that everybody has to learn the deepest secrets? Whatever a person is shayach to, whatever they can be masig, whatever they can understand through teachers, through rabbanim, through svarim, right? But like Shoshana said, Rav Dessler, they made our Gedolim make what we need accessible. We just learn Torah and it's there, right? It's with the Chachamim. It's with the Torah. But it's that Torah that Rabbi Akiva started teaching 5 students. And he rebuilt Torah with those 5 students. So yes, the kavod was lost. Yes, the magnificence, the revelation, the external expression of the light was hidden. We don't have that, but we have tov. Yes.
Is it starting to come back? Is that what the rise of the Shekhinah is? Or is it that we only have tov now and that's what we're going to see until Mashiach comes?
Okay, so this was part of my vision that I want to share with you. So let's get there. And
I just make the question bigger. Like, she was asking, why is everyone saying it's such a secret? It's just a secret. It's not a secret. It's out.
Right.
I wonder if in our generation it's not necessarily, so it means secret in English.
Yes.
Maybe there's more to it.
Yes.
Maybe it's not necessarily secret. Maybe it's more, I don't know, private, smooth, like you said.
Right,
like coming from somebody with hachna'ah.
Right.
It has to come with somebody with hachna'ah. And it has to be
Right.
given over to the right audience.
Right.
It's not necessarily secret. It's not that we're trying to keep
Right.
anything secret. It's
Right.
it's meant for who it's meant for.
Right, right. So it needs to come through tikkun. It needs to come through tikkun hamidos. And this has a lot to do with kavod. Because if people are, because what is kavod? Kavod is when something is revealed externally. And the ultimate tikkun hamidos, the ultimate tznius is when we are nourished from our relationship with Hashem in a pnimius way, in a direct way. If we're not looking for external recognition. So the greatest tikkun comes through hachna, which is humility, which is submission, which is recognizing that everybody has a chelek, and it's not just one person that's holding the light, but every person in Klal Yisrael is holding a piece of the light, a piece of the Shekhinah. So there's a lot to say. A lot to say.
Sure.
Okay, let me keep going a little. Just building.
Ask a question on the- I just want to understand a little bit better what we're talking about with kavod. That's lost.
Right.
What is lost? Because we say revealed, so in my head I'm thinking Torah Shebachsav, Torah Sheba'al because the
Right.
hidden was Torah Sheba'al. So what is the kavod
Right.
aspect that we're saying was lost? I
Right.
don't understand it.
That's a great question. So I have an idea that it has something to do with the first luchos and the second luchos, because the first luchos we lost as well, and the second luchos we got to keep. So even in the giving of the Torah itself, there's two. So there seems to be like a parallel between those two. I don't know. Let's take a look at the next source. The idea that I have, just to answer your question, has to do with my chiddush, and I wish I didn't have to say that. I wish I could tell you that I phoned up somebody and you said you're absolutely right. But I want to tell you that this is how I saw it, just so you know where it's coming from, and see if it resonates. And then we can say we had a chiddush. But I think we'll understand what kavod is when we understand who Leah Imenu was. Because if you remember, she wasn't appreciated right away by Yaakov Avinu, right? And that's why she was crying. It says, Eine Leah Rakos. And the pasuk says she was hated. Of course Yaakov didn't hate her. But compared to Rachel, who was beloved, she felt like she was hated. And yet, who's Yaakov buried with in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah? Leah. And who had the majority of the Shvatim? Leah. But the pasuk in Tehillim that we say in Hallel, it says, Moshivi Akaras Habayis, Eim Habanim Smecha. The Zohar says, Moshivi Akaras Habayis. Who's the Akaras Habayis? Zu Rachel. And who's the Eim Habanim Smecha? Zu Leah. So the Eim Habanim, the one who had the tribes, is Leah. But the Akaras Habayis is Rachel, because that's the one who Yaakov wanted to marry. But he didn't appreciate her fully, if we can say. In other words, his true zivug was Rachel, but then you know what happened? Leah became his true zivug, because Yaakov grew. And Yaakov he had the fight with the Malach, and he got a new name. And his name became Yisrael. And Yisrael was Taka, the zivug of Leah. Yaakov wasn't the zivug of Leah, but Yisrael was the zivug of Leah. So there is a time that Leah stops crying. There is a time that Leah stops crying. And that's something we've gone to great lengths to describe at the school, that process. But we never got back to Rachel. Because where did we leave Rachel? On the road. We left her on the road. We left her. She died at a young age in childbirth.
Now she's crying.
And now she's crying. She's crying for us. Ad shavu banim legvulam, until we come home. While we're in Golus, she's crying for us. So the end of Rachel's story hasn't happened yet. So what's the end of Rachel's story? Geula, right? Okay, so now in the school we talk about there's two Rachels. right, Eliza?
I was going to say Beis Yisrael is Asher Banu Shtehem is Beis Yisrael.
Asher it says in Rus, Asher
Yes.
Banu Shtehem es Beis Yisrael. There's two Rachels. There's Rachel vis-a-vis herself, in contrast to Leah. Okay, you could Rachel Hakatana, but not necessarily Rachel. That's the Rachel of Galos. That's the Rachel that's crying for her children. That's Mama Rachel, Kaver Rachel. Rav Moshe had a very strong connection to Kaver Rachel. They say there's more Shechina in Kaver Rachel than, or more. The Iker Shechina is by Kaver Rachel, and the Kosel, of course. But then there's another Rachel. And that's the Rachel when all is said and done, when after Geula comes, when it's a time of Geula, Beis Yisrael, it's when the beauty of Rachel and the beauty of Leah combine, when we have Lev Tov Mamash, when we stop mourning for the first 32 days, all mourning goes away, there's no mourning anymore. When we have Rachel and Leah together, Asher Banu Shteim es Beis Yisrael, when both build, when both aspects of the Shechina merge into one, the Shechina in its entirety, Rachel and Leah, and of course it includes Sarah and Rivka as well, that's called Beis Yisrael, that's called Rachel HaGadola. That's called Rachel, Shem Rachel, but it includes within her the Oros, the lights of Leah. So an amazing thing, when we named the school, we called it Nexus. Because Nexus in English, it means a meeting point, and it's the meeting where light meets vessel. The meaning of light and vessel, we said, where Torah meets the vessels of our minds, our hearts, our lives, practical application, relationships. We're women, we don't want to just learn stam for the sake of learning. That's not our tafkid, right? It's to bring it to the world, to bring it to our families, to transform, to our marriages. We want to bring it to vessel. So in a way, Leah is like the light. She's like the hidden light, the light that was hidden. It's hard to be masigit. Very high, very lofty, very concealed. And Rachel, it needs a bit more time, you have to do the Rachel Leah course, but Rachel is like the vessel, I want to say. She's like the Keli. That's why she was the Ikaras Habayis. She was the Zivug of Yaakov, because she created a home. A bayis is a home. Beso zu ishto. The home is always the woman. So she's like the kli kibul of Yaakov. It's the secret of femininity, right? To be a receiver. It's also Keli in Hebrew, Kaf Lamed Yud. It's the same gematria as halacha. Halacha means the practical way we walk, what we do. It's the physical way we live. So Rachel is more, I want to say, in this world. Leah is more very lofty and spiritual and deep, and not everyone could get her right away, so to speak. So it's sort of like lights and vessels. So Nexus, where lights meets vessel, is sort of like saying where Leah meets Rachel. Like this concept in Chassidus, which is where the lights of chaos meet the vessels of tikkun. Fixing always has to do with vessels, because the light comes mamela, the light comes. So it's called orot de tohu, the kelim de tikkun, the lights of chaos, because light can be very chaotic. It doesn't have a place. It's just ephemeral. It's just an idea, fireworks but like lights. Just it it illuminates, but then it's gone. It's like inspiration, like we said. Vessels are very concrete. It was so funny. I met my neighbor. She's a potter. She makes vessels. I said, "You're the perfect neighbor." She says, yeah, one day she wants to do that Japanese art, when vessels break and you patch it together with gold and you make this beautiful, it's the way, like when our vessels break and we, life, then, right, right. So light without vessels is called chaos. It's called tohu, right? Spirituality without putting it into a home, without exercise for your body. It's like if you don't have a healthy body, you said that the other day in exercise class. Lights without vessels, what's it worth? It just makes you crazy. But vessels without light, what's the vessel for if not to hold the light? So lights in vessels, that's the sweet spot, that's the beauty. And it's a very, very, very sensitive art to calibrate those, to get those to match. If you have too much light and not enough vessel, or too much vessel, like you're doing a lot of exercise, but you're not internally satisfied from right, it's just focusing on the body without the soul, of course, that's out of balance. So it's very sensitive to get that balance right. But when you do, when Leah and Rachel together build Beis Yisrael, that's called Beis Yisrael. That's what Hashem wants. Hashem revealed the Torah so that we would be a vessel for it and bring it to the world. That's what Yiddishkeit is all about. So now, let's take a look. What happened with those two sets of luchos? So source 5, Baba Kama, Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis. So Shal Rabbi Chanina ben Agel as Rabbi Chia bar Abba mipnei ma b'dibros harishonos lo nemar behem tov u'b'dibros ha'acharonos nemar behem tov. So he says, why does it use the word tov for the first set of luchos? It doesn't use the word tov, good, for the first set of luchos. But for the second set of luchos, they were called good. So you're seeing something interesting now about Tov, about Rachel, as we have Rachel now, as we connect to Rachel now, Tov. Okay, that's my overlay on R Moshe Shapira. He didn't say that it was Rachel. So the Gemara says that because Sofan lehishtaber, Hashem knew that the first set of luchos were going to break. And if they were called Tov, it would be devastating because if the first luchos broke, we would say now, Paska Tova mi Yisrael. Now we don't have good. We always have to have good. We always have good. We don't have kavod. We don't have the revelation. Kavod is revelation. It's when everybody knows. Baruch Shem, kavod malchuso leolam ba'ed. We say quietly, because the kavod isn't revealed yet. Amazing thing. He brings from Shir Shirim, Perek Ches Pasuk Aleph. Mi yitencha ka'ach li yonek shtei imi, emta'acha b'chutz, ashakacha gam lo yabozu li. If only we were in the time when we would find you, Hashem, outside in the streets. Listen to this verse. Ashaka will kiss you. This is what Shir Shirim is all about. It's all this intimate connection between lovers, a man and a woman, Hashem and the Jewish people. It's all a mashal, all an allegory. Gam lo yavozu li, and they won't, what's boz, lavos, disgrace me, they won't mock me, because we could openly reveal the Tov. We can, what is Tov? Ein Tov Ella Hashem. Our relationship to Dveikus with Hashem, that's the ultimate good. But the verse in Shir Shirim says that mi tenli ka'achli, if only it was as you were like a brother, it was open, it was revealed. Very interesting. A brother, you can express love to a brother. and nobody, it doesn't need sneers, right? You can say to a brother, I love you. Okay, you're a sister. Nobody's gonna, it doesn't need sneers, but a husband and wife, it needs sneers. That is something that needs sneers. Can't be in the street. And so the Pnimius HaTorah, the internality of the Torah is like, it's like marriage. It needs tznius. It can't be in the street. So this is that whole complex that we were dealing with. If we came to that time when it's safe for the most hidden things to be revealed and it's not a problem, we'll kiss you in the street and no one will scorn us. Mashma, in other words, now that it's not the time, it's not appropriate to kiss in the street, it's disgraceful, it needs tznius. So take a look at the next source. This is like the whole crux where he's going to. There we go. Source 6, Tanchuma, Parshas Kisisa, Lamed Aleph. Why were the first luchos broken? Haluchos rishonos al shenitnu b'pumbei, lefichach shalta behem ayin hara v'nishtabru. Why were the first luchos broken? Because they were given with so much publicity that the ayin hara grasped them and they broke. Kana marlo kadosh baruch hu ein lecha yafa min hatznius. There's nothing more beautiful than tznius. Shnemar, as it says, Ma Hashem doresh mimcha ki im aseh mishpat va'avas chesed v'hatznei lachas im Hashem elokecha. What does Hashem want more? What does He ask of you? Do justice, love kindness, and please walk modestly with your God. So now there's this connection. What is tov? The ultimate tov is when there's tznius. Because anything that's revealed in the world isn't ready. The world is not aligned. There's still so much evil in the world. The rectification hasn't happened. The tikkunim haven't happened. We're still in process. If you take that light and you reveal it, it's not tov anymore, it's going to break. So that's why at the moment, tov is hidden. But does that mean that we shouldn't connect to it? We need to connect to it. Because that's our life force. That's our good. It's tov. But we're going to live without tov. But we do it in a way that is tznius. So what does that all mean? So R Moshe says, he brings this incredible Mishnah. Source 3 in Avos, Beis, Mishnah Tes. Tzu u'ra'u, eze hiderach yeshara sheyidbak ba ha'adam. What is the straight path that a person should cleave to? Okay, we're going now from Pesach to Shavuos. We're going the quickest way. I know it feels like it takes forever, but it's not going to come a moment too soon because we need that time to develop and to grow and to build ourselves, to prepare. So what is that straight path? Listen to how beautiful this is. Rabbi Elazar Amar, what's the straight path to take? Just have an ayin tova. Just have a good eye. That's what Rabbi Elazar says. Rav Yeshua says, be a good friend. Just the secret, the straight path is to be a good friend. Easier said than done. What is a good friend worth? Gold, right? Rabbi Yossi, Omer, Shachin Tov. Rivka, this is for you. Be a good neighbor. That's the straight path. Have a good neighbor. Rav Shimon Omer, Haroa Esanola. It's somebody who can see the future, see what's coming from your deeds, make the right choices. That's the straight path. Rav Elazar Omer, Lev Tov. Lev Tov. Have a good heart 32 plus 17. If you have a leiv tov, that's the straight path. Amar lahem, he said to them, Roa ani es divrei Elazar ben Arach midivreichem, shebechlal devarav divreichem. A leiv tov encompasses all of those things: a good friend, a good neighbor, a good eye, seeing the nolad, the future, what's going to come from your actions. All of that is included in a good heart, leiv tov. The straightest path is 32 plus 17, is leiv plus tov, a heart that is good. Leiv tov, so leiv, that heart, a leiv that is good, is a leiv that sensitizes itself to the deeper layer. A heart that's able to look deeper, that's able to see beneath the dark, that's able to walk up those steps that we were talking about and see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though it's not shining. So he says an amazing thing he brings. The Ramban from Bereshis, who quotes the Gemara in Sanhedrin, so source 10 on your sheets, that we are living in a period of 6,000 years. The first 2,000 years is called the era of Tohu. Chaos. Lights without vessels, we said. Then the next 2,000 years, when Abraham was born and entered the scene, the era of Torah. And Torah is also called Tikkun because it's creating vessels for the light. It's like the halacha for the spirituality. It's like the vessels. Torah. Says the Vilna Gaon that the beginning of the next 2,000 years after 2,000 years of Torah is called the era of Mashiach, because Mashiach could come any time during those last 2,000 years, the time that we're in. But says the Vilna Gaon, heartbreaking, that if Mashiach doesn't come, then that era reverts back to Tohu. It goes back to chaos. And he brings a pasuk from Eicha, which says, Ein Torah. That's when Rabbi Akiva was born. That's when Rabbi Akiva entered. So the Avos entered into the era of Torah, right? 2,000 years later, there was the Chorban Bayis, Rishon Chorban Bayis Sheni, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. We lost kavod. We lost everything that they were carrying that revealed light. We had no revelation. We go into exile. But Rabbi Akiva comes in. And Rabbi Akiva starts a new transmission with 5 students. I think many of them were in that Mishnah. Okay, now listen to this remez. Listen to this. I think it's in Hazinu, source 12, Parshas Sefer Devarim, Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Yud. It says, Hashem found us in a desert region, Ubetohu, and in chaos, Yilel Yeshimon, in an empty, howling waste. Hashem found us in an empty, howling waste. This is, Lisa, a crazy pasuk because it's a hint to Lily. Yilel is a hint to Lily, right? I won't say more. And that negative expression of femininity is all light without vessel, which is very bad, very evil. But Rabbi Akiva came to fix the lights without vessels. And let's talk more about what are those vessels. But Yeshimon, it has 2 meanings. It comes from the word shmama, which means desolation, total desolation, devastation. But within that word is also how to fix it, the repair of desolation. You know how you fix chaos? So create a vessel. You know what creates a vessel? You give it a name. A name, when you can call something a name, you know how it is when you're like overwhelmed, frustrated, right? You give it a name. Okay, I could put all of that in that box. I'm annoyed. But it's not me. It's like you give it a name, you define, it doesn't take over, doesn't overwhelm you.
Quote, if you can name it, you can tame it.
If you can name it, you could tame it. That's gorgeous. So Rabbi Akiva, he took us out of shmama, of desolation, by giving us a name, by giving us the name Beis Yisrael. Hashem says, let there be light. Vayehi light. There will be light. It's not going to be kavod, but it's going to be tov. But it has to be tznius. It has to be transmitted. 5 students. That's all he had. Now listen to this hint. Yeshimon, what were the names of his 5 students? Yehuda, Shimon, Yossi, Meir, and Nehemiah. Shimon Bar Yochai, Meir, and Nehemiah. Yeshimon is his 5 students. Yeshimon, which means empty, tohu yilel yeshimon, and an empty howling waste, which is like the world will revert back to tohu if we don't have Torah. But then we had the Chorban, and then it says ein Torah, and Mashiach hasn't come yet, and we lost kavod. But Rabbi Akiva gave us tov. He gave us, through those 5 students, he gave us a name. He gave us the name Beis Yisrael, the house of Israel. Hashem says, Yehior, Vayehior is Gematria Rachel, because we might not have access to all of kavod. But when we access tov, b'tznius, and when we do it in a way of tikkun means, this is what we were talking about before, when we're able to go deep inside, we're able to not need external validation, but at the same time, we're able to give kavod to others. We're able to honor others, and we're mataken ourselves, and we rectify ourselves. And we learn all those secrets of containment. So then, through connecting to Tov, we're actually also getting a little bit of the kavod. But it's coming in. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen at the end of days? It's not that the internal will become revealed. It's that the outside territory will all come into the internal space. Understand? It's not that we go back to the source. It's that we bring that light through our journey in a place that it can be safely revealed, because the whole world can contain it. I don't know if that makes any sense. If we put it another way, it's not that we're going to the Rosh Hashanah and revealing private, secret things, but it's rather that all of the individuals are coming into the Rosh Hashanah. Understand? That the world is being transformed into a place of tznius. So we're able to share deep things with a lot of people, but we're sharing tznius. It is tznius because it's refined, it's rectified, we're growing through it. It's not for the sake of kavod, right? We're not looking for kavod, but it's something we're all committed to, that inner growth process, which is the purpose of the Omer, which is tikkun. So let's just wrap up. Anybody has any questions? But he wraps up.
I feel like we're in the middle of Tohu. I feel like we're in the middle of that as the years go on, and we go through one cycle of crazy things happening in world events. I feel like we're in the middle of that.
Right.
But we're not, right? We're still in the era of Torah. Or is it Mashiach?
Right, so we're in the era of Mashiach, which means, so there's different ways to interpret it. The way I usually explain it is that this hidden light that's in the Torah, it is the Or HaGanuz, and it is hidden, but it's hidden in the Torah. So if you go in a way of tznius, you can connect to it, and it permeates you from the inside, but in a tznius way. So there absolutely is Tov. There absolutely is that level of Torah. That hidden light is there. but we have to tap into it in the right way. But we have to. We can't not. So we have to learn and share and connect, but in a way that matches light to vessel, like in a way that's really how our Gedolim are guiding us, right? So in other words, what woman's learning, we're learning, but it's a base Yisrael kind of learning. It's in order to apply, it's in order to grow, it's together with, the men have their avoda, the women have their avoda. There's a lot happening in pre-Messianic times that we're connecting to. So it's like you have to go through Lev, and then you can come to Tov. So you have to mourn the fact that we lost it, but we can still find it. It's just in a different way. But then once we do, it will reveal itself in a way that merges the Lev and the Tov together, to bring us to Kabbalah Satorah and to Geula. So Rav Moshe ends with the beautiful pasuk about there's a great man who had a dream. He didn't know how to spell Akiva. We spoke about this in the Dina course. Do you spell it with an aleph or a hey? And he had a dream, and in the dream, they told him the verse, the pasuk, or zarua letzadik uleyishrei lev simcha. Look at the last letters of that pasuk. Or is resh, starts with light, er. Or resh, zarua, ends with an ayin, save ayin, letzadik, the righteous that the light was hidden for, kuf, uleyishrei, yud, lev, beis, ezehu derech yashara sheyavor lo adam, what's the straight path? Lev tov, right? Simcha, ends with a hey. Sofei tevos, the last letters spell Rabbi Akiva with a hey. And he knew that now he should spell it with a hey. Lamaisa, I think they spell it with an aleph. Yeah. Right? They paskin that it's with an aleph. In the Dina course, we learned amazing things of all Gilgulim, and Rabbi Akiva actually married a Gilgul of Dina. So Dina also can be spelled with an aleph and a hey. It's interesting.
Was that revealed in a dream, you said?
It was revealed in a dream, and he was so excited about it that he called, I forgot his name, but he's known as the Or Zarua, because he named his whole sefer Or Zarua. Or Zarua Tzaddik. But what does that pasuk mean? There's a light that's planted. When you plant, the seed is there, but you don't see it right away. Or Zarua Tzaddik. Right? It's coming. Uleyishrei lev simcha. But when you go the straight path, the path of Lev Tov, the 32, the Kavod, connect, whatever we can, even though we know we can't connect to it yet. But through Tov we can. And through those sweet teachings of Rabbi Akiva's 5 new students, including Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the depth of the Torah, we have to go to those sweet teachings because it's the hidden light, and that's what illuminates us. I'll tell you a personal story. We'll end with this, and if anyone has any questions. But lahavdil, I've been preparing for this Leshem series, and I've been trying to do is read the text, and then when it brings in a source, I try to look it up. And so I have a sefer at home that I got from my grandfather. He gave it to me, very special, Masok Midvash. So when I'm finding something, I'm sitting there like in these holy teachings. Do I feel worthy? Totally not. How could we ever be worthy? We're never going to be worthy. I totally don't feel worthy, but I know that I love it. I know that I that's what I need to do. So anyway, so I was busy learning, and then there was the siren. And it's so weird that Bli Ayin Hara, when we heard that siren, everybody's running to the mamad. I was I felt like I was in this bubble of safety. I mean, we're always in a bubble of safety because Hashem is watching over us, whether we deserve it or not. But like usually I feel a little, there's like angst, there's like a little nervousness, you know. And because I was learning that deep Torah, I felt completely protected.
Were you in the mamad or were you not?
I went to the mamad.
No, but I'm saying when you were learning it, you weren't in the mamad.
No, but then I realized afterwards my study is like a mamad. I think I should. It's like underground. It doesn't have any windows. It's totally underground. I could probably stay there. But I heard that when the world is feeling chaotic, when life is chaotic, like the waters are raging, Noach went into the teva, and that became. And I think that in these times of Ikvasut Mashiach, first of all, the Vilna Gaon said that when you learn deeper levels of Torah, he said that it's a segula to bring the geula berachamim. The geula will come no matter what. But we want the geula berachamim. We want an easy birth. And learning deep Torah is a segula for an easy birth. And it applies, there's no reason why it doesn't apply to women as well. As Rav Moshe was in favor of his teachings getting out to women as we're doing, Baruch Hashem. But more than that, as I kind of say, he evaded me. This was like the last line. Who wants to finish for me?
I like the image of you in a cocoon.
Yeah.
That's a good way to finish.
More than that is even when it's all raging out there, and in our personal lives, who doesn't have chaos in their personal life? I don't know. But when you're in Tov, when you feel that light, and you feel Hashem is with you, but it's tznius. It's not like you're telling everyone about it. It's not like you're publicizing it. That's when it doesn't break. That's when it has kiyum. It's the second luchos because it's b'tznius that it was given. That's the true Tov, as a orki Tov. So in other words, Hashem hid it. It's hidden. But he lets us, that's the whole simcha of Lag BaOmer, he lets us connect to it in this way of tznius. And we really have it. And when we connect to it, it's a teva, we're really in that cocoon. It's a lifeline. It's sort of like you're in labor, but you have the breathing techniques, and you can ride through it. So may it be Hashem's will that the geula should come soon with rachamim. We should have the coping techniques. We should have personal geula in our lives. We should experience b'yishrei lev simcha, ema banim smecha. Even if we're externally mourning, Rav Moshe said this, internally you don't have to mourn. We're not listening to music, right? Publicly, although thankfully that ends tonight, right? But internally you don't have to stay mourning. Internally, says Rav Moshe, you can connect to Tov, you can connect to light, you can be happy, you must be happy. And I think that's the secret. So Rivka, thank you for having all of us. And it was so wonderful to have a Lag BaOmer pop-up live shiur.
Something. When it brings me like woman at the fire. It's like the fires are pretty public around. And
Should we not
like
let
at the fire. Like my
bonfire?
son's built a huge bonfire and it's a whole thing and it's just you go.
That's a good question. Yeah. So I think that any getter tznius is a very good thing. So if you're going to a fire and there's mingling between husbands and wives, I don't think that that's a good thing. I don't think that's tov. And I think that the more that we observe that tznius, the more that Hashem actually blesses us with light and revelation. Yeah, perfect. You can sense it when there's like a breach, you can sense it, and when there's like a appropriate boundary. But the more there's an appropriate boundary, the more that Hashem benches us with with blessing. Like in a marriage, the more there's tznius in a couple and they're focused on each other, the more they can have a better shalom bayis. Okay.
You said something.